What's up guys, Sparring Cat, and in today's Battle Cats video, I've compiled a bunch of units that the majority of Battle Cats players consider good, and I'm going to be ranking them on a tier list from D tier up to S tier to determine how good they actually are. All the units above are at least solid at the very least. There are no bad units on this list in my opinion, and this really is subjective, so please take my ratings with a grain of salt, but feel free to sit back, relax, and learn a little bit. If you enjoy the video, please make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, as it really helps me grow the channel that I love making videos for you guys on. So please consider doing that. And also make sure to leave your thoughts down below in the comment section and share this video with anybody who you may think wants to listen to me talk. Starting with our first couple rankings, we have the Erasers, and I'm going to put both of them in S tier. They are both widely considered to be fantastic meat shields, and I agree with those claims. I think that they're both necessary for progression because you at least get the normal Eraser so early into the game, and he's still good throughout middle game and everything, and he really does help you get to the point where you can get to Manic Eraser, and then at that point, you're pretty much set for meat shields. You could always bring in specialist meat shields depending on the circumstance, but all in all, both of them are going to help you out a lot, and I think they're both crucial for you to advance throughout the game. Next, we have Darknatim. I'm going to put him in S tier. I don't think there's too much debate about him. He's one of the best anti-traitless units in the game. If not the best, I think you can make a case for that as well. But I love using him, especially paired with Shadow Gal. I think them together is pretty much unstoppable. You just bring in the two meat shields that you have there, and you're set for a lot of traitless stages. So make sure to use him. Area attack, damage up when he gets down to a certain amount of health. And even before he gets his damage attack up, he's still very powerful as a generalist, but even more so as a specialist. So all in all, a very good unit, and I would not sleep on him. Next, we have Can, another S tier. I just think he's ridiculously powerful against all enemies that he attacks except metal. And with his talents, he's able to target 2 traits, but much more importantly, times 2 money. So this really does allow him to get you a lot of return for your investment. You're going to spend 675 cents and bring back 10,000 cents. And never mind, he could survive quite a few hits. He could deal quite a few amounts of damage, if you know what I mean. I mean, he just absolutely wrecks enemies. And all in all, a very powerful generalist who just happens to be able to slow aliens and reds. So he's good. I don't think there's much debate about that either. So we have some of the non-controversial S tiers out the way. But throughout the list, you'll notice that there's some B tiers, A tiers, and we'll have to settle some of those. And at that point, it's really more of a subjective ranking, but I feel like these 4 are all pretty safe bets for S tier. Next, we have Cameraman. Yeah, I'm going to throw him in S tier as well. I just think he's a really good, well-rounded unit who you could spam and get a lot of damage out of. But also, being able to survive a lethal strike allows him to get more bang for your buck. So you're going to be able to get a lot of return back for using him. Even if you send 5 or 10 of him out, you're still probably going to get quite a bit of money back. And on top of that, he's able to be a pretty decent defensive unit as well. Since his main selling point is floating, he's strong against them, so he only takes half their damage, but he also deals 50% more back. So all of that on top of the fact that you can spam him and he survives pretty well, you have a pretty good middle range push. So I'm going to put him in S tier as well. Most of these overrated cats aren't really overrated. They're just really good. Next, we have Octopus. And previously, I put him in A tier, but I think he has to go into S tier. He's just too good of a wave blocker to not be in S tier, considering how few there are in the game, where you get him in the game. And then also the fact that he's a great tank against floating enemies too. So I really think the S tier case is made for him. I put him in A tier originally because he wasn't that great of a generalist, and that there's other wave blockers. But all in all, I disagree with that now, because looking back at what some of you guys said, and then also doing more research on my own end and just some more reflection, he has helped me a lot. There really aren't any other options for a wave blocker I put in front of him, because he's cheap and he always ensures that I have protection. So he's got to be in the S tier. Just a fantastic meat shield. And I love using him against floating enemies too, because he's really able to put off some of those pushes by the short range enemies, and also withstand some attacks from long range. So he complements that very well, especially if you're fighting against somebody like the Alien Bun Bun, where you can block waves, but then you could also weaken him. So all in all, great unit, and I crapped on him a little too much, putting him at A tier. He definitely deserves to be an S tier. Moving on, we have Cyberpunk, and I don't know, maybe A tier, S tier. I think it depends on what you guys need more so than how good he actually is, because he's very situational. You know, you can put him in some stages and he gets instantly killed, or he just doesn't get you a lot of value because there aren't a lot of enemies on the field or anything. But there's other times where he's able to control huge masses of peons and bosses and also be 2,000 range away. So there's two sides to him. I think if you're getting a lot of value out of him, he could be an S tier. But the fact is that you can only use him in certain stages, so that does limit his usability a bit. But when he's locked in, he's locked in. I would also recommend for everybody who's listening, on most stages, I would recommend you pairing him with Sniper, because, you know, either the power or the cat or both, because one will keep him out of the blind spot and the other will slow him and make sure he stays there. And it's just a cycle for you to gradually gain more ground. So it's a great strategy. You could pair him up with Sniper the Recruit or the Sniper tool, or both, depending on what you need. But it's a very powerful combination, and I would strongly encourage you to use it. Next, we have Dark Laser. And Dark Laser, I'm going to put Dark Laser in A tier. Not quite S tier, because I think Pizza Cat takes a lot of the playing time away from her in a lot of situations. And then also, there's a lot of anti-red these days. But I want to give her respect where it's due, because she's able to manhandle 2 traits throughout early and mid game. And then you could also get her talented and make her even more useful. And these talents are also necessary to keep her super relevant. But once you talent her, she's a powerhouse against 2 traits. And for that alone, you could argue S tier, but I just feel like red and black happen to be very power creeped. And as somebody who uses Pizza Cat, I also use Manic Island. I use all these other units that are able to do what she does, Cassagizo. So, you know, I do think that it's a bit power creeped, those 2 fields, and I don't always find myself using her, but especially in restriction stages and all those types of battles, I think she's very useful just because of the versatility of being great against 2 traits. And I also do recognize, though, the amount of investment they have to put in for her to be good. But once you do, you have a very, very solid attacker that could easily fit in with a lot of lineups. Also a little steep on price, more expensive than Cassagizo, but I think it's worth it in a good amount of situations. Just going to miss the S tier for me personally, but I do think Dark Laser earns a lot of the respect that is given to her. Moving on, we have Ramen. Ramen's going to go in not A tier, S tier I meant. And he's just a great meat shield who has basically the whole game on lock against Angel enemies. I mean, you're not going to find a better Angel meat shield in my opinion. And then also you can put research combos in, and as long as the stage drops a lot of cash, you definitely get the money back. Definitely a bit of an expensive meat shield, but combined with high DPS and extremely high health and good baseline stats in general, you're not going to have a hard time using them. I would recommend you bring in research combos, as I mentioned, just because this will allow you to send more out. But in cash tight stages, you might want to reconsider it, just because he costs more than twice as much as the Racer Cat. So you could do dual Eraser for the same price as Ramen. But Ramen tends to be very good, whether as a generalist or especially as an anti-angel meat shield, just because of the really high base stats for the price that you're paying. So pretty easy S tier in my opinion, and definitely one of the best meat shields in the game. I love good meat shields because they really do protect your army to the fullest extent. Next we have Balrog, and I love Balrog too. He's going to go in S tier. Just absolutely cooks enemies and bosses, but if there's a lot of peons and whatnot, then it could be very hard for you to get value out of him. Or if the boss just counters him with status effects, then that's really annoying, just watching him stand in place and not do anything and then get killed. But for the price, the recharge, and the amount of sheer power he has, I think he's an S tier. I know some people don't like to use him late game because the bosses become too powerful, but on the other hand, I think most times he's able to effectively do his job. Even if that only means hitting an enemy once or twice. Maybe one time with his damage up. That's honestly a lot of damage. That's at least 500,000 depending on what level you have him at. And he's able to do a lot of damage, if you get him high level enough. So I highly recommend you to use him in certain stages. Not all of them, but now Awake Muhammad Cat, who I'll get into later this video, with Baja Blast is absolutely insane, which pretty much doubles his DPS and gives him more range. So props to Ponos for giving him the talents. I made an update video about that in February if you want more information. But if you've been under a rock, Bahamut Cat has talents and they're incredible. So make sure to use them and invest in them properly. The speed up boost is also very good for him. So yeah, but getting back to Balrog, S tier just has helped me a lot. I love him. Next we have Bullet Train. Bullet Train's either going to be an A or S tier. I do think Bullet Train lacks in terms of how long it just sits in place, and then also having single target attack. I'm going to put it at the top of A tier, and here's why. I just feel like that Can does a better job with the whole dealing damage thing, and as far as being a staller goes, I would give that to Green Shell over Bullet Train. So I do think that if you put both those in, that Bullet Train is a little bit overshadowed, but mark my words, Bullet Train is one of the best super rares in the game. And that's because Bullet Train, first of all, has a ton of speed, only slower than the newly added Sonic Cat, I believe. But Bullet Train is great for rushing, great for getting into blind spots of enemies, and has won me quite a few battles just by being able to deal damage while breaking into blind spots. So that's a big thing. And then also having the rebound attack, so if it gets knocked back over and over again by Troy bloggers, it can just eliminate all of them, which is really nice because they drop a lot of money and he doubles the money, so that's a great way to farm cash. But I do think it misses out being an S tier just because it's not the best at stalling enemies. It could get killed because it only has so much health. And then also, as far as times 2 money goes, it can get you a lot of value, and I do recognize that, but I like using Can more personally when it comes to killing an enemy and getting a lot of cash. But Bullet Train is great, and if you put him in S tier, I could agree with that too. I just personally think he falls a little short, in my opinion. Next we have Sumo. I'm going to put Sumo, I want to put him at A or B. I'm going to put him at the back of A, and it's mostly because of Cool Japan. It's just an insane combo. But then also as a meat shield, don't overlook him either, because in 4-star stages, he can get you quite a bit of stalling time because he has good health, even though he costs a bit. I do think sometimes it's worth it. And then also early game, he's used a lot, so props to him for that. But I do think late game is hard to use him as regularly because of his price. And then also, I always find a racer to be better. And if you want a more expensive meat shield, you could always go for Ramen or Jiangxi, which I think are both great alternates to Sumo. But I want to give him the benefit of the doubt because he's part of some really good combos and also a decent meat shield in of itself. So that being said, he's probably a B tier in terms of being a good meat shield, before talents at least. And then with the combo, he's a little better. The speed up combo, the speed up talent, definitely get him the speed talent, get him his stat boosts, and he's good to go. I think the speed is a great addition. I almost forgot to mention that. It definitely makes him better at just being able to get to the front lines better, because in his the first time you get him, true form and stuff, he's a bit sluggish. So the fact that he can get to the action is very, very crucial to your success, because now you have a front line who can defend you. So all in all, Sumo's a pretty good meat shield, but I would use some of the ones above him a little more often in certain situations. But if you have a lot of money to spend or you need more meat shields, Sumo's always a good option for you to go to. As long as he's fully talented, he does need the health boost and the speed boost for him to be as good as you can make him, though. So consider that. And here's Awakened Bahamut Cat, as I had mentioned previously. He's going to go in S tier, and I'm going to put him right here. He's just great, and the talents solidified him as being the best rusher in the game. I thought that Ida was really good, and you have Yukimura, you have all these great rushers, but now I think Awakened Bahamut Cat has a chokehold on both of them because of the Baja Blast, the speed, and all in all, just being a great unit. I don't think there's much room for improvement for him at this point, except for the health, but you're going to have to make do with that and use him wisely, because sometimes you send him out and he gets one shot by an annoying enemy, but that doesn't always happen. And similarly to Maglev, though, as I want to mention, he has the rebound mechanism, so he gets hit and he just instantly comes back and deals even more damage. So that's great. And then also the multi-hits, all right, but, that's what's valuable. As long as he can land his big shot, you're doing well. He misses a lot less than his evolved form, luckily, so you're not going to lose a whole lot of value on him as long as you can get some shots out. But all in all, he's a little expensive, but well worth it, because all he needs to do is land one really good shot, and you're set. So Bahamut's going to go on the top of S tier. I really do think he's a fantastic unit. He was going to go into S tier before the talents, but now he's already been solidified as even greater, which was hard to believe. But I was stoked when I heard about the talents. Even Valkyrie kind of got saved, but nobody really cares about her in the grand scheme of things. Now she's just a little less mid. But as far as Bahamut goes, he's a powerhouse. Next we have Paris, and I'm going to put Paris at the bottom of S tier. I think she's overrated a little bit, but I do think that there's a time and a place to use her. Actually, yeah, I'm going to lower her top of A tier. Not a bad ranking at all, trust me. But I just think she's a little too situational, and there have been quite a few times where I've thrown her into stages and I haven't gotten what I wanted back out of her because either all of them got killed at once or I didn't have the money to send them out. And those are both big problems because you have to spend a lot of cash in game to get her to be good. You have to either spam her, which costs a lot, or you have to hope that a boss doesn't one-shot them like a hacky or something annoying, or a mecha bun rushes you and your meat shields aren't there. But all in all, when things are clicking, she's really, really good. I do think she's a little overrated, but so many people have said that. It's kind of like Casa Jizzo. I don't think she's truly overrated anymore just because of how many people have said it. Casa Jizzo might now actually be underrated just because of how many people said he was overrated 5 years ago, which is really funny how that works. But Paris is a very solid middle range option, and especially early game, you're going to want to use her a lot. But late game, I don't always find myself putting her in my lineups. And last but not least, we have ICAT. I know very recently I put him in S tier, but I listened to some of you guys, did some more thinking, and I think he's going to go in the top of A tier. He is a very, very, very good anti-red unit. He's able to pretty much perma-freeze certain enemies, but the big problem with him is that, kind of similar to Paris Cat, pretty situational. And in mixed stages, it could be hard for him to win those freezes. And then additionally, he costs a bit. He has a bit of recharge, so it's going to be hard for you to stack up them like you would with Bomber Cat or something like that. But all in all, ICAT is phenomenal at what he does for the most part. It's just that similarly to some of the units in the A tier, they're just not always clicking. But all in all, really good at controlling red enemies, which is important because they deal a lot of damage. But eventually, you're just going to want to start focusing on eliminating them with some of the units in the S tier, like Balrog, Can, Bahamut. You know, if you just want to be completely offensive and go after them and not want to fight them for 20 minutes, then I would recommend you to do that. But this is my tier list. Remember to take it with a grain of salt. It's just my opinion. And then also some of your guys' opinions too, because I listened to you about the ICAT ranking and the Paris rankings and all that stuff. And the Cyberpunk, you know, I consider what you guys say. And that's why I encourage you to leave your thoughts down below in the comment section so we could all have a civil discussion about it. And then also stay tuned. I might do a live stream in the imminent future. I figured it'd be good to just talk to you guys, maybe a Q&A, or we could do a collaborative tier list or something. You know, you guys could chat while I make a tier list or something like that. So make sure to let me know how you guys think of that. And also just know that I'm trying to make more long videos more frequently. So please get into the habit of checking your notifications if they're not already on. But thank you for making it this far. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe as well, because that really does help me make the content that you guys are watching. But thank you for making it this far. SpartanCat signing off, and I'll see you in my next video. Peace.